Hey guys, in this episode, I'm going to show you a beat juggling concept that changed everything for me. So when I was starting out as a DJ, the first video that really got me into beat juggling was the 95 DMC West Coast Finals. There were a lot of dope DJs in there, like Babu, Melo-D, Disc, Ruthless. Yeah, it was just a really dope video, especially for the time. I mean, you can go back and watch it now, and you know, those guys, what they were doing back then, it holds up against people entering DMC now in 2018, okay? The people that really amazed me with beat juggling, especially in that video, were Babu and Melo-D from the Beat Junkies. When I was watching what those guys were doing in the video, I could not figure out what they were doing. I mean, it just looked so complex and complicated. I didn't know where to start, and I bet for a lot of you guys watching beat juggling today, you might have that same feeling of kind of being lost, like what the hell are they doing, right? But all of a sudden, in his routine of doing a bunch of stuff I couldn't understand or figure out, Melo-D did one pattern on a song I was really familiar with. He was using Funky Child by Lords of the Underground. I know that song really well, so he did one pattern that was pretty simple, and I could follow exactly what he was doing. And this simple concept, it still informs a lot of the beat juggling you see even now. I mean, people have taken it and done really advanced things with it, different things with it. But I'm going to show you this one concept that, I mean, it really opened a lot of doors for me, and I hope it does the same for you. So before we get into it, a couple of disclaimers, okay? So one, this is a breakdown pattern. Breakdown patterns are not the first thing that you need to learn or that you should necessarily be learning when it comes to beat juggling. But if you're at the point where you're ready to learn some breakdown patterns, this is for you. A second disclaimer, I mean, this is not, you know, I don't want to make you think, oh, Mike's about to show us some next level shit, because I mean, Melo-D was doing this in '95. So, you know, I'm not like showing you anything brand new here. But like I said, it did open a lot of doors for me when it comes to beat juggling, and I hope it does the same for you. Like I said, if you're at the point where you're ready to get into some breakdown techniques. And the last disclaimer I want to give you is, like I said, I learned this from watching Melo-D. I'm not saying Melo invented it. I'm just saying that when I came around and learned it, it was from watching him on a video. So now that all my disclaimers are out of the way, let's watch Melo-D and let's get into this. All right, so he's coming out of a juggle with the bridge here, and he's gonna put on Funky Child. This was my fucking song back then, still is. Okay, so he's got Funky Child on one side, and he's putting in this other beat. I feel like a tool for not knowing what that beat is. I'm sure it's some standard classic beat that I should know, but I don't. Anyway. So here comes that pattern. Okay. Right here. Okay, and then he does some other shit. But let's go back and watch that pattern again, okay? All right, so he has Funky Child on his left hand and the other drum beat on the right side. Okay, so watch his left hand, okay? He's just breaking down the Funky Child beat and filling in the gaps with his right hand, with sounds from his right hand. Okay, so now that we've seen Melo do it, let's recreate that concept on my turntables so I can kind of walk you through it and explain in more detail. Now, this concept is a little easier understood if you use two different beats. So on this side, we got Who Shot Ya, Biggie. And on this side, I have Unbelievable. Okay, so the concept as illustrated by Melo-D that I want to show you is that basically, just like he was doing, on this side, all I'm going to be doing is just breaking down the beat to a slower tempo manually, okay? Let me give you a better view. So this side, it just keeps traveling forward. I'm not pulling it back ever, you know, just for the purpose of showing you this concept, okay? So it just keeps going. And then this side, Unbelievable, it's not gonna travel. It's gonna kind of stay in the same place. Like I have the very beginning of the song, the first kick drum at, for me, it's 12 o'clock. So we got a kick, okay? So here's that concept, you know, just like Melo was doing with Funky Child. He was letting one record basically just keep going forward, although he was breaking it down manually like this. Okay? And what he was doing, in essence, was he was filling in the gaps of that beat with the sound from his other hand, okay? So right now it's going kick, snare, kick, snare, kick, snare, kick, snare, okay? And I'm gonna start filling in the gaps. Or, you know, some of them. Kick, fill, snare. Kick, fill, snare. Kick, fill, snare. Okay? And then we can start doing it kind of more often than that. Kick, fill, snare. Kick, fill, snare, fill, kick, fill, snare, kick. Or, you know what I'm saying, all right? I'm filling in the gaps. Okay, and then I'm gonna jump a little ahead. Once you have that down, you can start using different things. You know, I've been using this kick, right? Ah, shit. Okay. But you can also use, I don't know, a different sound. You can use a hi-hat. See? So I'm just doing the same thing. I'm just filling in the gaps with different parts. I can use a snare. And then, you know, you want to do some funny stuff, you can, I don't know, do a baby scratch. Flip. So yeah, that's it. I mean, I think you get the idea. Just breaking down one side manually, filling in the gaps on the other side. And most juggle routines you see, they aren't like this. You know, they don't have one or both records just keeping going. But I'm doing this just to illustrate for you that concept. I mean, when I was watching those guys juggle, it's like, what the fuck are they doing? You know, they're kind of going back and forth. They're using different parts on each record, but, you know, where the fuck do I begin with that? But I feel like when I saw this concept, it really just opened the door for me to, you know, to create my own breakdown music, you know? I'm jumping ahead kind of further and further because I want to give value both to those who know nothing about juggling or about breakdown patterns, and I want to, you know, I'm kind of moving forward ahead, advancing it so that, you know, I can teach something to you who are already doing some breakdown patterns. To give this a little more detail, when I first learned this thing from Melo, I wasn't quite doing it the way he was. I thought I was, but here's what I was doing, okay? So, this is what I was doing. So I am filling in the blanks, but listen to this. This is a little different. I think you'll hear the difference. Yeah. I think this is probably that part in the song when he's like talking shit. You got a gun in your mouth, you know. So let me pull this back. Okay, so the subtle difference that I illustrated here was instead of filling in the gap with just one sound, you know, kick, snare, I was using two sounds. I was letting this play just a little bit longer so that I could capture two sounds. So instead of doing kick, snare, I would do kick, snare, and likewise on this side, you know, I'm gonna put unbelievable on both sides now just to illustrate this point. Okay, this will illustrate the difference. So before, when I first thought I understood what Melo was doing, I was doing this. Okay? I was getting three sounds. Kick, fill, snare. Oh, let me adjust the camera so you can see the... Don't need to see my face, need to see the records. Okay. Instead of getting three sounds... One, two, three. What Melo was actually doing when I learned more about it was he was getting five sounds. 1, 2, 1, 2, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay? So it was going, and this side was also going. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and then the snare, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So you can see the difference between that and like it just, you know, it adds that funky swing, right? So so anyway, that's kind of the next thing I wanted to impart to you. Okay, time for another disclaimer. When I talk about techniques that were invented by Rob Swift, it makes me kind of nervous because, you know, if I don't understand everything just right, or if I don't explain it just right, then it's possible that I'll get a big long essay from Rob on Facebook or something, you know, telling me the right way. And you know what? That's what I want. That's how you learn, is getting schooled by your elders. So Rob, if I'm not explaining anything right, please hit me up, comment something, because, you know, I want to learn too. That's part of why we do Skratch Snobs, okay? But what I will tell you is once you learn that core movement as invented by Rob, then it creates the basis for you to learn the strobe as invented by Shortkut. So that's all I have for us today, but let's recap what we went over. We talked about the concept of filling in the gaps that I learned from watching that Melo-D video back in the day. We talked about how you could use different sounds to fill in the gaps instead of using the same point on the record every time. We talked briefly about how you can use different techniques to fill in the gaps. I showed you the example of using a baby scratch, but you can fill in the gap using, I don't know, a tweak scratch or a hydroplane or whatever you want. So you can see the possibilities are endless. We talked about how the timing from the core movement invented by Rob Swift makes filling in the gaps sound that much better. And that core movement from Rob is the basis for the strobe pattern invented by Shortkut, which I showed you a second ago with some different variations of it thrown in. So anyway, you can see this juggling thing is a rabbit hole. You know, you can spend your whole life learning or trying to learn things that were already invented by people who came before you. You know, like they say, if anyone sees further, it's by standing on the shoulders of giants. In this case, people like Melo, Shortkut, Rob. So anyway, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening if you made it this far. I got to go get my wife's car washed. The playoffs are on, so I'm out. Have a good week. Peace.
Yeah.
It's only right that I address this. Gotta be in it to win it. I never come lame, type killing in the game. It's only right that I address this. Gotta be in it to win it. I never come lame, type killing in the game.
Music.